A boy whose life was going very badly, but one day he saves a vampire, and in doing so, he becomes its master. The story begins with our main character, Mahiru. His parents had passed away, and Mahiru was in shock. His relatives had already started discussing who would take care of him next. Mahiru felt as though he might end up alone and starving. But then, suddenly, Mahiru's uncle agreed to raise him. His uncle took him in and said, "Don't worry, we are your relatives and we won't leave you alone." And now Mahiru has grown up. He does simple things to pursue his hobbies. Even though he's a high school student, his uncle forbids him from bringing friends over to their house. One day, when Mahiru was out, he found a cat by the roadside, which he brought home. The cat was also injured, so he nursed it back to health, put a bell collar on it, and decided to adopt it. After much thought, he named the cat Kuro. Although Mahiru had adopted him, he knew nothing about the darkness lurking within. The next day, Mahiru was walking with his friends when they told him about a vampire near the railway station and how 10 people had already gone missing. Mahiru didn't believe it at all and rushed home. But as soon as he entered his house, he was shocked because his TV was on. When he went inside, he saw a strange person sitting there with very large dark circles under his eyes. He was also sitting in front of the TV playing a lot of video games. Mahiru got very scared and asked him, "Who are you? How did you get into my house?" And picking up a nearby broom, he started to hit him with it. But the person was so fast that he dodged the attack. When Mahiru was about to hit him a second time, he slipped and accidentally pulled open the curtains. Suddenly, sunlight fell directly on the stranger, because of which he transformed back into Kuro. Mahiru was shocked. When Mahiru closed the curtains, he transformed back into a vampire. Then Mahiru asked, "Who are you?" The stranger replied, "I'm just a cute vampire. What's your problem with me?" Then Mahiru realized that his friends had been telling the truth about the vampire. And after this, he tried to drag him out of the house into the sunlight. He asked, "Why did you kill those 10 people?" The vampire replied, "I don't know what you're talking about." And after that, the vampire said, "Don't you dare say my name again, not even by mistake." Mahiru got angry and said his name. As soon as he said the vampire's name, Kuro, a blue circle started to form around him, and after that, the circle vanished. Mahiru didn't understand what had just happened. So the vampire said, "I am a special type of vampire who obeys his master and can only drink his master's blood. And for now, our contract has been initiated, making you my master." But then the vampire added, "This contract will only become permanent if I drink your blood within 24 hours. For Mahiru, this was no less than good news, and he started trying to drag him outside, but he couldn't take him out because an unknown force was pulling them back. The vampire said, "How can you be so foolish? When I forbade you from saying my name, you said it deliberately." Mahiru replied, "I have no interest in staying with you." Mahiru thought about telling his friends about the vampire. After this, when he left the house, went to his friends, and told them everything, his friends said, "Are you crazy? You're calling a cat a vampire?" And one friend started making fun of him. Then we see a black shadow appear behind them. Suddenly, a magician appeared there who had been watching them. One of Mahiru's friends ignored him. The magician stopped him and suddenly he slashed him and blood was everywhere. After this, he jumped very high and revealed his name, Belkia, who was a vampire. Belkia had sensed Kiro's presence there, which is why he challenged Mahiru and Kiro to a duel. Suddenly, Kiro transformed into a vampire and kicked Belkia. When Mahiru asked what was happening, Kiro told him he should run away from there or he would regret it terribly. Mahiru said, "Do whatever you want," and he ran to save his friends. Belkia was about to attack both of them again with a sword when Mahiru jumped and grabbed his face. Belkia was about to kill Mahiru with a sword, but suddenly Kuro jumped in between and took the attack upon himself. After this, Kuro pulled the sword from his chest and said that he hadn't drunk blood for 100 years, which is why he was very weak now and not capable of defeating Belkia. Then Mahiru extended his hand and said, "You can drink my blood, but you have to defeat Belkia." and then Kuro drank Mahiru's blood, which caused their temporary contract to become permanent. Now, Kuro had become Mahiru's vampire servant. Mahiru ordered Kuro to go and finish Belkia. Then, Kuro attacked Belkia with his claws, creating a winds attack, and in a single blow, Belkia was finished. Then, Kuro was about to kill him, but he transformed into a doll. Mahiru picked him up and asked why he was trying to kill Kuro. Belkia replied that it was his master's order. His master's name was Tsubaki. When Mahiru asked why he wanted to kill him, Belkia gave a strange answer, saying that nobody knew Tsubaki and Tsubaki wanted to kill everyone who didn't know him. Suddenly, Kuro and Mahiru fainted because they were very tired. And after that, we see Mahiru sleeping in his bed and Kuro is also sleeping nearby. Mahiru quickly got up, went to his school, and looked for the friend who had been attacked by the vampire. But when Mahiru asked about it, no one remembered anything. That friend said that the police had told him he'd been in a car accident. The people they had met in the market, Mahiru's friends didn't even remember them. All of this seemed very strange to Mahiru, and after school he asked Kuro about it. What is all this happening? Suddenly it started to rain there, but there were no dark clouds in the sky. Mahiru suddenly teleported to a place where an unknown man was approaching him. That unknown person laughed at Mahiru, and then he pulled out Belkia. When Belkia addressed him as Master Tsubaki, Mahiru became a little alert upon hearing Tsubaki's name. Tsubaki suddenly teleported in front of Mahiru, then grabbed Kuro and threw him to the ground. Kuro transformed into his true form. When he transformed, Tsubaki called him Big Brother. Mahiru was shocked to hear this and asked, "Is this true?" Kuro replied, "I don't know this punk, I'm seeing his face for the first time." Then Tsubaki said that there are 7 vampires in this world, each with their own capabilities, and Kuro is the eldest among these 7, known as the Servamp of Sloth. There is one more true Servamp here, and that's me, but no one ever accepted me because I am the youngest. Then Tsubaki transformed into his fox form, climbed onto Mahiru and started teasing Kuro. The fight escalated a bit, and Tsubaki, in his true form, attacked Mahiru, but Kuro blocked him with his claws. Mahiru told Kuro to drink his blood to regain some energy, but Kuro refused. Tsubaki took advantage of this chance and beat him severely. Then Tsubaki picked up Mahiru and said, "You started a war among all 7 Servamps just for your amusement." Then Mahiru understood that Tsubaki was mentally unstable, and he angrily told Tsubaki, "All right, if that's the case, I will give my blood to Kuro and order him to stop all of this." But Tsubaki replied, "What if you die before that?" And then Tsubaki was about to kill Mahiru, but Kuro, risking his own life, saved him. But he couldn't reach in time. Then, suddenly, everything vanished. Mahiru and Kuro found themselves in a different place, and Mahiru realized that another vampire had just saved his life. Then, suddenly, 2 twins appeared there and said that their master wanted to see Mahiru. Kuro had no intention of going, but then a rich boy appeared and said, "You have no other choice but to get in my Lamborghini and go there." So Mahiru also got into the Lamborghini and went with him. The boy told Mahiru that he was the master of the Servamp of Lust. The boy's name was Misono. When they reached his house, we were shown a butterfly, which was none other than the Servamp of Lust. He introduced his Servamp, whose name was Snow Lily. In the next scene, he fed his Servamp of Lust blood and summoned his death scythe. After that, his demeanor completely changed. He said, "Mahiru, you are a complete fool. You don't even know how to use your Servamp properly." Misono offered both of them to become his servants, but Mahiru and Kuro refused. Because of this, he told Snow Lily to attack them. Snow Lily's first attack was barely dodged by both of them. After that, Mahiru asked why he was doing this, but Misono refused to say anything. He said, "A commoner like you doesn't have the status to talk to me." Hearing this, Mahiru's mood soured. He picked up Kuro and said, "I don't want to talk to an arrogant person like you either." When Mahiru came out with Kuro, he realized that he was lost. Suddenly, many small children started looking at them from the window. And then, suddenly, Snow Lily appeared behind them and said, "These are my subclasses." A little later, Misono also came downstairs and said, "If you can't be a leader, then it's better for you to work under me, and keep all of us safe as well." Mahiru tried to understand his words and said, Okay, I will support you, but not as a slave, as a friend. Then he asked, so are you planning to fight Tsubaki? Misono replied, so you think you can defeat Tsubaki just like that, without any weapon? Then Misono explained that all Servamp masters get a chance to choose a weapon that comes from their Servamp. In the next scene, Mahiru was walking home with his friend when he felt something behind him. But when he looked back, there was no one there. After this, when Mahiru asked Kuro about the weapon, Kuro said, if you want a weapon, close your eyes. When Mahiru closed his eyes, he reached the dimension inside Kuro's mind. There, he met a cat who said, I am a part of Kuro. It led him to many gift boxes and said, choose one weapon from these, and choose carefully, because you cannot exchange or return them later. Mahiru chose the simplest box there to avoid any conflict. As soon as Mahiru chose that box, a magical broom emerged from it. As soon as Mahiru got the broom, he teleported to Misono's mansion. The broom flew into the air, and then we saw a tattoo form on Mahiru's wrist. Mahiru's bought, what is this? But Misono said that it was the mark of his weapon. He tried to summon his broom but couldn't. Then Snow Lily said that he should think about his goal, it would make it easier. Mahiru thought about his friends because he considered his friends his family. Misono also told Mahiru that he would surely introduce him to his friends someday. In the next scene, Mahiru went to his friend Sakuya because he hadn't come to school for 3 days. Suddenly, all of Mahiru's memories started to glitch and he forgot everything about Sakuya. Before Mahiru could understand what was happening, the real Sakuya grabbed him from behind, and they all teleported to a place where Kuro and Mahiru were tied up with strings. Then we saw Belkia upstairs, and with him, Mahiru's friend Sakuya. Kuro and Mahiru understood that Sakuya had now become Tsubaki's minion. Sakuya, almost in tears, said, I trusted you, but you hid the fact that Kuro is not a normal cat. An attack was made on Mahiru, but Kuro somehow saved him and took the attack upon himself. Kuro was so injured that he couldn't recover even after drinking Mahiru's blood. Mahiru thought he might die now, but then all the strings were cut because Misono and Snow Lily had arrived there. Snow Lily attacked Belkia and threw him far away, while Misono looked at Sakuya. Misono and Snow Lily had defeated Belkia on their execution chair and killed him. Then Misono asked Sakuya, why did you do this? Because Mahiru was even thinking of introducing you to me. Suddenly, Sakuya's demeanor changed and he said, I also want to be friends with both of you. Hearing this, Misono became a bit careless and told Snow Lily, let Sakuya and Belkia go. As soon as he released them, Belkia, who was being controlled by strings, attacked Snow Lily and cut off one of his legs. Sakuya attacked Misono with his knives and seriously injured him. Sakuya put a knife to Mahiru's throat and said, you should just die. He said, one by one, after this, I will kill all your friends. And just as he was about to kill Mahiru, a ghost appeared from behind and it stopped Sakuya from killing Mahiru. The ghost whispered in Sakuya's ear, do you want to hurt everyone just as you were hurt? Suddenly, Sakuya said, Mahiru, hurry up, kill me. But Sakuya was Mahiru's friend, so how could he kill him like that? But then Mahiru's weapon summoned itself and started to punish him. Mahiru didn't want to kill him, but he couldn't control it, and he kept hitting him. In the end, when Sakuya was about to die, he thought, it's good that my useless life is ending. On the other side, all negative emotions were flowing in Mahiru's mind, which Kuro was seeing. To bring Mahiru out of all this, Kuro drank his blood, and the chain connected between them. After that, we see Kuro unleash his hidden ability. A very large cat's shadow covered the entire area. Before Mahiru could understand anything, he was pulled into its shadow. And then we see Sakuya, who says, I just want to die. Mahiru, quickly tell your servant to kill me. Before Mahiru could understand anything, Kuro was shot from behind. On this battlefield, another servant and his master had entered. His master said, go and kill everyone, and his servant did just that. He kept shooting Kuro until he transformed back into a cat. Sakuya, while leaving, threw his wristband towards Mahiru. That new master who had arrived with his servant was the Eve of Envy. Mahiru looked at him very strangely because he had stopped attacking. He picked up Kuro, gave him to Mahiru, and said, "I'm sorry for handling Kuro so roughly. Mahiru, I think you should stop pretending to be a master because you are so weak. You're not capable of it." The next scene, Mahiru is walking with his friends where Tsubaki is also following him. Tsubaki sits down to eat somewhere with Mahiru and he tells him Sakuya's entire backstory. When Sakuya was little, his parents never supported him. Because of his parents' behavior, Sakuya's sister also died. Sakuya's sister died by jumping from the roof, but Sakuya's parents say that if he tells the police the truth, they will kill him in the same way. Unable to bear this, when Sakuya grew up, he was about to die. But Tsubaki saved Sakuya's life, which is why he became his minion. Tsubaki says that when a dying person drinks a vampire's blood, they become their minion. And after that, he laughs at Mahiru because he didn't even know that much. Then, as he leaves, he says, "I'm not in the mood to fight today." Mahiru couldn't even ask Tsubaki to return Sakuya. He blames himself for all these things because he never understood the pain Sakuya was going through. The next day, when Mahiru goes to school, he asks about Sakuya, but no one knew anything about Sakuya. They only remembered Sakuya's nature, but they didn't remember Sakuya's face. Mahiru understands how all this is happening. A few days later, at a festival, we see Sakuya coming with a mask on. There, all his friends were passing by him, but no one recognized him. However, Sakuya is surprised to see that the board behind them says, "We are waiting for Sakuya." He is watching all this when a flying Kuro lands on his face, and Mahiru also sees him. But Sakuya starts running towards the roof. After going up a bit, Sakuya couldn't understand how he would face Mahiru after he had tried to kill him. But then Mahiru says, "Forget what has happened. Sakuya, remember, we are childhood friends. How many things we did in our childhood." But Sakuya says, "I don't have any of my childhood memories." Then he starts to run from there and goes to the very top of the roof. There he stands on the boundary and says, "Forgive me, Mahiru, I tried to kill you and your friends. To tell you the truth, I never wanted to do anything like that." Mahiru says, "I don't care about any of those things." But then Sakuya jumps from there, and to save him, Mahiru also jumps from there. In the air, Mahiru grabs Sakuya's collar, and just before they hit the ground, he summons his broom. But after a while, Mahiru loses his balance and they fall. After falling, both of them laugh at how Mahiru still can't control his powers. But then suddenly, Sakuya starts to cry and says, "I wanted to spend more moments like these with you." But then Sakuya says, "When I was little, I used to blame myself for my sister's death. But Tsubaki was the one who said it wasn't my fault." Tsubaki also told Sakuya that in every difficult situation, whenever you remember me, I will come to you. And when he was about to die, Tsubaki had saved him. That's why he says he can do anything for Tsubaki. Mahiru thinks that just like his uncle's role in his life, Tsubaki has the same role in his. Then Mahiru says, "You do everything Tsubaki says under his pressure, and I promise I will free you from this." Sakuya says, "What you've done for me is more than enough. You don't need to do any of this." Then Sakuya runs as far away from Mahiru as possible. "You were the first friend who helped me. You were the first friend who extended a hand of friendship." Saying this, he starts to cry. The next scene, we see Mahiru, who is very frustrated and tells Kuro, "Kuro, tell me the ways. I want to become very strong." The next scene, we see Mahiru and Kuro waiting for a festival where a fireworks show was about to happen. Suddenly, a mysterious man appears there and gives them a suitcase. He says, "Please deposit this in the lost and found section because I don't know where it is." Just after giving the suitcase, the mysterious man disappears. However, Mahiru doesn't doubt much and he alone starts walking towards the lost and found counter. While walking, Mahiru bumps into a man with golden hair. He was carrying a very big box, but when Mahiru asks what it is, the man says this is a coffin for vampires. Mahiru doesn't believe this at all, but then he gets distracted because there is a huge explosion behind him, and it happens at the exact place where Mahiru was going. Mahiru quickly understands that this suitcase is also going to explode. He couldn't figure out how to take it far away without anyone getting hurt. Kuro couldn't summon him in front of the golden-haired boy either. But then he trusts the boy and summons Kuro in front of him, where Kuro takes him high up in the air and throws him. Mahiru thinks that there might be a timer in it and it might explode on the ground. And the suitcase doesn't explode in the air. When it hits the ground, we hear the sound of it exploding. But we see the golden-haired boy had put the bomb inside his coffin in time, which is why he was able to stop the explosion. Mahiru asks the boy, "Tell me the truth, who are you?" Then he says his name is Tetsu, who is the owner of a hot spring. Suddenly, a sound of something moving comes from inside the coffin. When the coffin opens, a bat comes out of it. Kuro easily recognizes it as the Vampire of Pride. The Vampire of Pride had handled this explosion. There, he says that this must be Tsubaki's plan to kill people by blasting them in a crowd. But he says it's not like Tsubaki is the only challenge for you right now. The next scene, when Mahiru and Kuro return home, someone comes out from inside the house and pulls Mahiru inside while Kuro falls outside. Kuro understands that something is wrong again. Just then, the gate opens again and a magic laser is aimed at Kuro. On the other side, Mahiru meets a guy named Suzuki who says, "I am not your enemy." Then Suzuki also says, "Don't think of me as your enemy because I can help you kill Tsubaki. So Mahiru, will you join me? Because Tsubaki is not just a threat to vampires, but also to humans." Where Suzuki says many things. He also says that if you have any doubt, I am ready to tell you everything. To defeat Tsubaki's minions and Tsubaki, he needs your help, Mahiru. There, Mahiru's mind changes because among Tsubaki's minions is Sakuya, whom he has to save, as he had promised. Then Suzuki checks on this and says, "Yes, there is a minion named Sakuya. But Mahiru, your childhood friendship should have nothing to do with this because we have to kill him." There, Mahiru gets angry and says, "Don't even touch Sakuya." Where Suzuki says, "I understand what you're saying, but when it comes to business, I am very strict. There are a total of 50 doors here and only one is the exit. If you want, you can leave from here. And yes, hurry up, because if you are late, you will never see your vampire again." Because right now, Kuro is fighting with the most expert vampire hunter. On the other side, Mahiru angrily starts heading towards the doors, where he is unable to find the real door. Suzuki laughs and says, "It will take you about a day to check all the doors. By then, Kuro will be at a great distance from you. And if you don't know, let me tell you that if a master and a vampire are at a certain distance, then the master will die." Mahiru has two options. Either he finds the right door or he works with Suzuki. Mahiru would never want to work with such a terrible team, so he starts looking for the door. But no matter how hard Mahiru tries, he can't find it. Then he gets an idea. He summons his broom and going to the center creates a tornado which creates a hole in the roof above. Suzuki says, "Wow, very good. You found the real door." And because Mahiru had found the door, he lets Mahiru go without stopping him. On the other side, Kuro is attacked by 3 people at once. There, Kuro is having a very hard time dodging their bullets. He had been hit by 1 or 2 bullets, but he was still running. In between, he was also caught, but he somehow ran away. When Kuro reaches the riverside, one of the hunters says, "We have already caught Mahiru." Hearing this, as Kuro's mind gets distracted, he gets trapped in an attack. There, they were about to shoot Kuro, but just then, Mahiru flies in on his broom and grabs Kuro and takes him away from there. The next day, Mahiru calls a meeting where he also invites Tetsu and Misano, but neither of them takes his meeting seriously. A little later, Misano tells Mahiru about the information that he didn't know about vampires and masters. Mahiru says that they might get some information from the Vampire of Envy because he seems very knowledgeable. Misano suddenly says, "No, we won't get any help from the Vampire of Envy. I don't trust that guy at all." A little later, Tetsu and his vampire bring some information that a very dangerous man is roaming in the market. When Mahiru and Kuro see the man, Kuro says, "Be careful with him. I have a bad feeling about him." So Mahiru decides to follow him secretly. When Mahiru sees that he is carrying a caged animal, Mahiru's love for animals awakens and he runs after him to save the animal. That man had also seen him in a cover, so he was waiting for him. When Mahiru reaches, he suddenly asks him, "Tell me quickly, are you an angel or a demon?" But Mahiru couldn't understand, and Kuro's face also turned weird. Then the man uses his power and summons a magical piano. There, from the sound of the piano, the man finds out that Kuro is a demon, and suddenly he starts attacking Kuro, where he kicks him up to the top. Mahiru quickly summons his broom and goes up to save Kuro. Upon reaching the top, Mahiru somehow saves Kuro and gives him his blood to drink so that he can regain his lost strength. After that, Mahiru asks, "Why did you harm my partner?" He also tells him to release the caged animal. But when he releases the animal turns out to be a vampire, which was the Vampire of Greed. Then the Vampire of Greed says that the man with me, his name is Licht, who is my master, and I'm with him because he thinks I'm an angel. Where Licht says, "I think he's a demon and I hate him." And these two are fighting among themselves there. There, Mahiru is happy because he has found another companion to fight Tsubaki. Then the Vampire of Greed says, "You're mistaken, we are not your companions. And besides, you don't need any companions because Kuro, who is the strongest vampire, can handle everything alone if he wants to." Then the Vampire of Greed also says, "I haven't forgiven Kuro because Kuro did something similar to me." Mahiru understands that something had happened between these two before. Before a fight could break out between the two, Mahiru separates them and asks, "Can you help me?" But he refuses and leaves from there. When Mahiru returns home, he sees the boy playing the piano on TV and is shocked. And he tells everyone that he is the master of the Vampire of Greed. Where Misano says, "It's better to stay away from the Vampire of Greed because when he gets bored with his master, he kills his master." But Mahiru doesn't listen to him because he has to save the man. He finds out that the man playing the piano, whose name is Licht, is a very famous piano artist. When Mahiru is in the concert hall, he sees the same man who handed him the explosive bag. Mahiru understands that Tsubaki is trying to kill Licht. On the other side, where the concert is happening, all the people sitting in the audience are actually Tsubaki's minions. When Mahiru reaches there, he sees that all the minions are already dead. From this, we know that the Vampire of Greed is also very powerful. On the other side, the Vampire of Greed had also started attacking Licht, who was his own master. The vampire goes behind Licht and kicks him, but by then, the vampire goes behind him and kicks him again. Then, the Vampire of Greed laughs and says, "Don't worry, normal people are more powerful than vampires' masters." Mahiru also says that Kuro should order him to kill everyone alone. Mahiru says no, Kuro can't do everything alone, he also needs some support. Then, the Vampire of Greed attacks Mahiru, but Kuro saves him. Then, the Vampire of Greed decides that he will tell Mahiru the story of the 7 vampires. A long time ago, the organization C3 had ordered the killing of a man, where a vote was held among the 7 vampires. There, I and 2 other vampires were against this murder, and the other 3 vampires were in favor of this murder. So, what should we do after this? We left it to the Vampire of Sloth, that is, Kuro. He was telling the story, but Kuro, hearing all this, starts to release his aura. The Vampire of Greed says, "So, are you trying to hide your mistakes in front of your master?" Kuro's murderous intent starts to show, and they were about to fight. When Mahiru calls out to Kuro, as soon as Kuro sees Mahiru, for the first time, Mahiru feels that Kuro is not in his control at all. On the other side, Licht has recovered and he stops the fight between the 2 vampires. He takes Mahiru's broom, bends it, and pins Kuro to the wall. The Vampire of Greed, seeing Licht come in between, attacks him. He stops, but we see a whale-like creature coming from outside and stopping both of them. A little later, when Mahiru checks on Kuro, he sees Kuro looking a little strange, which will be explained later. The next scene, we see the Vampire of Greed, behind whom Tsubaki suddenly appears. The next scene, we see Mahiru, who has finally reached his home. There, all his friends are angry with him because he suddenly left without saying anything. Misano says that things could have been much worse, but it's good that you brought one of Tsubaki's minions here. Then we find out that Mahiru had caught one of Tsubaki's minions. However, the minion's name is Lily. Then Misano says that since this is Tsubaki's minion, we can't fully trust him. Then Mahiru says, "I feel like Tsubaki will surely come back to get his minion. No matter how bad Tsubaki is, according to Sakuya, he would probably never leave his minions alone." When Mahiru asks Kuro to say something about this, Kuro silently leaves. Mahiru follows Kuro, and when he asks, "What happened to you? Why are you behaving like this?" Then Mahiru, seeing Kuro's face, understands that he is not in his right mind. Ever since the Vampire of Greed talked about his past, his mood has been like this. After this, Mahiru directly asks Kuro some questions, like what is C3? And did you say yes or no to that operation? As he asks all this, he looks at Kuro, who suddenly transforms into a very strange thing. Mahiru is completely shocked seeing him, but after that he gathers a lot of courage and orders him to return to his cat form. Kuro follows Mahiru's order and starts walking behind him, and then both of them go home. The next scene, we see Mahiru with the same minion whom Mahiru had caught. Then he asks, so, do you consider Tsubaki your enemy? But Mahiru says, I don't consider him an enemy. I believe he is just a person whom I have to stop. Then the minion says, Mahiru, I have to tell you something. Tsubaki has a right-hand man whose name is Higan, and he is especially very strong. You have to be careful with him. Next morning, when Mahiru wakes up, he gets a call, where he is asked about the Vampire of Greed, because he has been missing since last night, and his master, Licht, is weakening very quickly. Because of this, if he is not found, Licht will become very weak and die in a while. Suddenly, a red-haired man appears behind Licht. Before Licht could understand anything, he launches a fatal attack on him. Then we find out that this is Tsubaki's right-hand man, Higan, who easily starts beating Licht. Licht tries to fight, but he can't do anything in front of Higan, where Higan says that your Vampire of Greed is currently being crushed very badly under Tsubaki. Licht says, I don't care about that demon, but I'm not going to lose to you. Where, to kill Licht, Higan has also summoned his red aura, which Mahiru also sees from afar. Mahiru quickly wants to reach there with Kuro, but Kuro says, first tell your backup. But Mahiru doesn't listen and says, I don't have that much time. In the next scene, Mahiru has reached there, where, not knowing that it's Higan, he tells him to leave him. After this, Kuro and Mahiru get ready to fight, where Kuro hasn't forgotten his past yet, and he can't fight. Suddenly, Kuro transforms into a black crystal ball. Seeing this, he is completely shocked and says, can this ball be Kuro too? Mahiru tries to summon his broom for his defense, but that broom also goes into that crystal ball. Higan says, the fight between Licht and me is not over yet, where Higan completely dodges all of Licht's attacks, and very badly Licht loses to Higan here. Mahiru then tries to stop Higan with all his might, but Higan knocks him unconscious and leaves from there. When Mahiru opens his eyes, Misono and Tetsu were in front of him. Liliac was also there. Mahiru apologizes to everyone because Kuro had told him to bring backup, but he didn't listen to him. Where the other vampires also feel Kuro's energy from that ball. Where Misono gets a phone lying there, which belongs to Tsubaki. There's a call from Tsubaki on that phone, where he says, I want this phone back. Misono says, we will not give you this phone back. If you want this phone back, then release Law and Licht from there. Tsubaki says, that phone is not so important to me that I would make such a big deal with you. Then Misono says, not only that, we also have your minion Liliac. If you release those two, I will give you these two things. But Tsubaki is not interested in this at all and cuts the phone. In the next scene, they are having a meeting where they are talking about how they are going to save Licht and Law tonight. Although Mahiru is not taken here because he doesn't have Kuro with him now, which makes him useless. This is not me, Mahiru himself is calling himself useless. Now, when everyone has left from there, Mahiru is crying alone here. He is saying that I am very weak. On one side there's me, and on the other side there's Licht, who even without his vampire is fighting Higan. Seeing Mahiru crying, Kuro appears on the ball here, although Kuro also doesn't know how he appeared like this. Mahiru seeing Kuro says, don't worry, I'll get you out of here. Later, when he tells his friends about this, Tetsu builds a saw to cut that ball. Although Mahiru refuses, which makes Kuro think that his master is very understanding. But then Mahiru says, I am his master, so I will cut this ball. But this is of no use. After this, we see the same whale, whose master has also arrived. This whale, we have seen him before too. He had brought a strange liquid which can reduce a vampire's power. And after this, he tests it on vampires, which proves that it reduces the vampire's power. That person says that this liquid was given to him by the Vampire of Envy. Mahiru says, so shouldn't we talk to Misono about this now? where Misono refuses, where Snow explains to him that for a while we should forget the past. If, in this category, the Vampire of Envy can help us, then why not? After this, Mahiru boasts to meet the Vampire of Envy, where he is sitting on a train and thinking. Suddenly, Tsubaki appears and says, "What kind of master are you who can't even save your vampire?" And after this, Tsubaki attacks him, but then we see Mahiru jumping off the train and he realizes that he is seeing an illusion. Mahiru thinks that Tsubaki is also going where he is currently going. Because of this, he reaches there before him. After reaching there, he meets a crazy dealer who is a scientist. Mahiru doesn't understand how to talk to him, but then he asks him, where that scientist brings Mahiru to his house and writes his name on his forehead, because the scientist couldn't remember Mahiru's name. After this, the crazy scientist gives Mahiru some kind of juice. After this, the scientist tells Mahiru to drink the juice, where he says that this juice will help you master Kuro's mind a lot. Where Mahiru drinks that juice and faints after drinking it. After fainting, he keeps falling down, where he can only see one thing, which is the bell that Kuro had given him. In the next scene, we see all of Mahiru's friends who are planning how to defeat Tsubaki. They all have found out Tsubaki's real location, where they all know that Law and Licht are in the same big building, but they are definitely not together. Because if a vampire and master are together, their power increases, so they guess that Law is above and Licht is below. And they decide that they will disguise themselves and enter that building. Here, the Whales Master, whose name is Crane, had come as a very rich man, from which, using his brain very cleverly, he gets a duplicate of Tsubaki's room card. Now, they can enter their room without Tsubaki knowing. Right there, Misono also puts on a black dress and gets on the lift. But on the lift, Sakuya is also there. Here, Sakuya had recognized Misono, which is why Sakuya quietly presses the basement button. Where the lift starts going to the basement, Misono calls Crane to the basement as well. But Crane is not very good at this type of fight. After reaching the basement, he doesn't find Law anywhere. This means that Law is not in the basement. In the next scene, we see Tetsu, who is with his coffin, and he has reached the upper room here. But all of Tsubaki's companions are already standing there to stop Tetsu. On the other side, we see Tsubaki, who is in a forest. He is going straight through the forest when many whale mascots appear in front of him. Tsubaki thinks that, what can they possibly do? They are very weak. But they are not that weak either, that they can't handle Tsubaki for a while. Where Tsubaki shows the whale mascot that he has the key where Law and Licht are imprisoned. Whale mascot says, "Give us that key." Then Tsubaki says, "Where is my minion?" They say, "Your minion is with us, but first you give us your key." Then Tsubaki doesn't give them the key either and goes to find the minion. But Tsubaki finally can't find the minion. Although Tsubaki says, "I have a lot of time now, I will easily find Liliac." On the other side, we see Mahiru in Kuro's mind, where the same cat who gave him the magic broom meets him. When Mahiru asks, "Where is Kuro?" Then he says, "Kuro doesn't want to meet you." But Mahiru doesn't consider this at all. He thinks, "Why wouldn't Kuro want to meet me? He must be lying." Then that cat takes Mahiru to a place which is underwater. When he swims there, an old memory of Kuro is shown there. All 7 vampires are sitting in one place, where the same thing is being discussed, whether they should kill that special man in the assignment given by C3 or not. Where we find out that the special man they are talking about killing is none other than the man who created the vampires. Where 3 vampires refuse to kill him because he created them. The other 3 vampires say they were forcibly made vampires by him, which is why they should kill him. Where Kuro is asked to make a decision, and Kuro doesn't say anything there and quietly leaves. And Kuro had gone to kill that man. But Mahiru is not shown this thing, which is why, while watching this, some black vines appear in front of Mahiru. And after this, suddenly the same cat appears in front of Mahiru. That cat asks Mahiru if he wants to see more of Kuro's memories. She then takes him to a room where Kuro is kept. Kuro, crying, tells him that he never wanted to become such a bad vampire. I did this very wrong. Where Mahiru says, yes, whatever you did was wrong. If, after doing this for so many years, you think it's wrong, then it's definitely wrong. But Kuro, this is your past. Remember that you are not in your past now, you are in your present. Now, this is not the time to hold on to the past. We have to do many more things now. If we don't do them, you will regret it. Where Kuro understands Mahiru's words, and he finally removes all his darkness and comes into his cat form. On the other side, we see Law and Licht, who are in the same place, but in different rooms. So, we will end today's video here. After this, there are many good stories too. What exactly was Law's story? How did he become a vampire here? Why did Tsubaki become a villain? Why does everyone want to kill Tsubaki? To know all this, please make one comment, and I will definitely bring part 2 for you. Until then guys, see you in the next video.